Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk about a little of what I learned here at Tech. So we've got a couple stories to share with you guys. So the first one has to do with the Corps of Cadets. Back in the 1890s, when Virginia Tech was still VPI and a Virginia Polytechnic Institute, it was a military school. The cadets went to a drill competition, which honestly I'm not entirely sure what that is. Probably marching, um, but they won it, and they got prize money from that. And with that prize money, they bought two reconstructed Civil War cannons, and they had those on display until 1944. In 1944, during World War II, they were asked to melt down the cannons for the war effort. And instead of doing that, they hid them in the duck pond. Now, I mean, I guess you guys don't know this, but the duck pond's basically, it's just a pond, um, obviously. And they just threw those cannons in there instead of giving them up. Um, and then later, in the 70s, other cadets dove into the pond, and I actually have no idea. It's at least 10 feet deep, I'm guessing. I don't know. And they found the cannons, and they hauled them up. And they're not huge cannons, but they're probably a couple 100 pounds each. It's not an easy task at all. Finding them or getting them out of the water. And then what they did was they hid them in the basement of one of the dorms. And on the weekends and after class and after PT and all that, they refurbished them. And on the homecoming game, I don't remember who it was against, but they brought the cannons out. I think this is a really interesting story because it shows the dedication of the cadets. These are they will they won these cannons with their own. They got the money through their skill, and they decided that damn it, those were theirs. That damn it, those were theirs, and they're gonna keep them, no matter what. And they did, showing a perseverance for their history. And I think that's something really commendable. And the second story has to do with the common book that we got. Virginia Tech gives every freshman a book, and this year, well, it's a new one every year, and this year we got this one, Little Princes. It's a story about a guy who goes to Nepal. He's a UVA grad, and he volunteers with orphans in Nepal. He's volunteering. I'm just going to tell one little story from there. There were these 7 children who had been trafficked to out of their villages in the country because there was a civil war going on. So a lot of parents sent their kids away because there would be child traffickers, and the traffickers would say that they're going to bring them and they're going to get educated, but really what happens is they stick them in really terrible conditions, and then they use those conditions to get tourists them donations, and then they just pocket the money, and they just keep getting money for more tourists. And these seven children were taken from a village, and they ended up living with the parents of one of the kids, or two of the kids, at his orphanage. This was right before he left to go back to America, and he got in touch with something called the Umbrella Foundation, which said that they'd house the kids. He had to leave because Nepal's civil war was gearing up. And the Umbrella Foundation, well, there was the country went into martial law for 2 weeks. The Umbrella Foundation said they were going to send people to pick up the kids after those 2 weeks were over, when it was safe. And he told the kids that someone would be there to pick them up. They wouldn't have to live in a one-room house, starving to death. And when the martial law was finally lifted, and the people from the orphanage went to pick up the kids, they found out that they'd been taken by a child trafficker, the child trafficker that had left them there, because that was proof that he was actually trafficking children, and he could go to jail if they were put into a house. So he decides to raise money. He's absolutely broke. He spent all of his money volunteering, and then he traveled the world after that. He volunteered for 3 months, then he went around the world. And he was finally home, and he decided he needed to go back to find these kids. And for several hours, and he's wandering through the village, literally showing people pictures of this girl, or all the kids, and just looking. And he didn't think he was going to find her. There was no way. I mean, she could be hidden, and if anyone knew where she was, they honestly probably wouldn't have told him. And as he's wandering around the village, losing hope, she's doing the same thing. She's wandering around looking for water. And he suddenly looks up, and he sees her staring at him. And he looks at the picture, and he looks up at her, and he realizes that this is the little girl that got stolen. And that's the end of that story. You guys should really read the book. It's called Little Princes. It's very good. I think Justin's probably already read it. And that shows that sometimes, even if you have no idea where to start, or if what you're doing is right, sometimes if you just keep going, things will turn out alright. And this has been kind of a long video, so I guess I'll let you guys back to it. I hope you're having a great time at your respective colleges. And I hope to see most of you during Thanksgiving break, and then winter break if I don't see you then.